How is everyone doing out there? Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your patience, guys. I just finished doing a live on Tim's podcast, which is going to be my guest tonight. So, for those who don't know who I am Ishmael Perez. I'm your host today. I am the author of The Secret Government, Invisible Architects, and Our Cosmic Origin. Again, these works explore the veiled truths and complex interconnections behind our world's hidden rulers and our cosmic origins. I hope you guys are having a beautiful day today on the 11th of May. And on this very day, in the year 1934, a massive storm sends millions of tons of topsoil flying from across the parched Great Plains region of the United States as far east as New York, Boston, and Atlanta. If you're new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and don't forget to share this video. Thank you. Now, before I bring my special guest tonight, I would love to share another fun fact about myself that maybe some of you are aware about, but I would love for everyone to know about. And that is the fact that I love to explore inner space, whether you call it contemplation, meditation. I love my alone time, guys. In fact, that is when I am in my highest frequency, in my true element, as they say. So I have been and I will continue to release exclusive content that reveals the research behind my latest book, The Secret Government, Invisible Architects. I have been getting a lot of great compliments and feedback from the audiences and people who have read my book. Thank you so much. It is very digestible. The editing is immaculate and it reads as if it's explained to an 8-year-old. I love it. Now, I also wanted to extend gratitude and appreciation to the community for everyone that is here, that is tuning in. Thank you, guys. Now, my guest tonight, Tim, is a governance expert from Europe. For almost a decade, he worked as a tactical advisor within the covert government sector in Europe, which aims, among other things, to understand the missions and strategies of non-human intelligences on our planet and beyond. He was in experiments with so-called exotic life forms, beings not from this earth. Tim also reports on his numerous experiences with advanced technologies behind closed doors and shares his insider knowledge from 10 years of work in undisclosed projects, especially on the topic of the current disclosure. His deep understanding of the mysteries of the universe comes from his extensive contacts with these other races. Let's bring on my guest tonight, Tim Tactics. Welcome, brother.
I'm excited. Hi, Ishmael, and hi, community. I see everyone in the chat. So good to see everyone.
Beautiful. So, Tim, I did meet you during our Happily Shift Now meditation groups that I guess we were, both participating in, and I believe that you continue to do the online meditation. That's beautiful, brother. But tell us more about yourself. Like, how were you approached, or were you just part of the program ever since you were a little boy?
Oh my goodness. Well, I was recruited when in the very first, I think it was the first year of university. So I was doing my studies back then, and I was actually recruited for a certain institute, and everything began quite normal. Was kind of doing research, being in the university at the same time. I was doing like I was in law school in the university and working full time. That was my life back then, and then it took like around 4 years to get me into the alien stuff.
How fascinating is that to have firsthand experience of beings from other worlds, my friend?
Well, I'm in the lucky position that nowadays I'm very integrated about it. It wasn't always like the super fun experience that people might think it could be. However, everyone who's like asking me, Tim, we want to meet an ET. We're ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm so ready for that. I don't know. I don't know. It's like in these programs and meeting other exotic life forms, that can be weird. It can be a wild thing. Meeting being 6, which was a experimental interfrequential life form, very, very, very highly experienced. Was very lovely. I enjoyed that very much and was very healing too. However, retrospectively, I would say I love my life much more right now. I'm doing what I'm doing with this beautiful community of people.
And we are grateful for that. Thank you. I believe that a lot of my people have recognized you from Gaia. That's awesome that you're out there exposing some of these truths that the government has been hiding from us. Now, Tim, can you describe your initial role and responsibilities when you first joined the covert government sector?
Well, it was a gradient path down the rabbit hole. So it doesn't, well, as people might assume, it's not that you apply for a secretive role or anything. It's you are being selected, and the selection process takes years, and you never know while you are being tested. You never know where you're going to end up. It's just a very intransparent process. And I think things are changing rapidly now because we have space forces now. Germany has one, Italy, England has one, France, Russia, China, America, famously, and multiple other countries too. So I believe very much that the whole recruiting thing is going to be very, very, very effective in the next few years. But back then it was just you never knew. And I'm reading all these beautiful comments. So everyone, thank you so much for being with us and hanging out with us. And yeah, and thank you for complimenting my accent. I didn't know I have an accent.
Talking about an accent, how many languages do you speak besides German? Because you were
I used to be quite fluent in 8 languages, actually, like all NATO languages and Chinese too. But to be very, very honest, that comes from a time where language like English was not so very popular like 10 years ago. I mean, the internet was not where it is today, and if you went to work with people from Italy, then you gotta well you you work with people from Italy and they don't speak English, so not so much nowadays. They do much better, but thank you so much. It's so cool to see everyone. I'm reading all these messages, so, and I do see some familiar faces too. So Tori is here, and some other people too from Canada who I know. So I'm super. I love this hangout, Ishmael.
Thank you, brother. I believe that we are what we attract. So I attracted the most enlightened and awakened people on the planet. I am so grateful to the community.
Yeah.
You are,
Well, you're welcome.
I know. And you are getting a lot of love, Tim. So another question would be, what kind of training or preparation did you undergo to work with these non-human intelligences and exotic life forms?
Can you repeat the first part of the question again?
Sure. What kind of training or preparations did you undergo in order to work with these non-human intelligences?
Well, not enough. Clearly not enough, to be honest. So my expertise comes from exit strategies. So I'm trained professionally in exit strategies. Also, certain extremistic situations, how to find exit strategies in that field. So that is basically my background, governance, diplomatic contact, and so on and so on. And the whole thing, developed over time. So I was basically doing research projects, and then people sneaked in some papers. We received a lot of papers about the history, human history, European history, and so on. And one day I received a document stating that people from Greece were talking about reptilians in the city of Athens. And that was probably the first thing where you really got like information about ETs. However, covered in like a pile of other documents that are stating about people turning into frogs, and all these stories that ancient Greece and people back then were also speaking about. So you never knew, I wasn't expecting to end up in the way that I ended up, and it took quite a few years. I was hoping to have more, especially like the debriefing and the effects that ET contact has on your psyche, which can be drastic, right? It's a whole new reality thing, which is also the reason why I'm now doing what I'm doing, because I went through shifting of realities, and I know it can be stressful. I am very much integrated now, and now I can, pass that on and teach other beings how to be this integrated. But I wish there was some more preparation.
I feel you on that. I feel you. But, as that saying goes, we learn through our experience. And we do have a question here from the chat. I would like to address the chat and also involve them. This is coming from Universal Love 111. I love that, 1111. When are we going to start seeing ETs who are walking among us right now? From your perspective.
I love that it's on display. That's pretty cool. So, well, thank you so much, Universal Love 1111, for asking that question. I would answer that in maybe a different way than you were expecting. So, the consequences of seeing ETs in real 3D live feed on this planet. There are certain things that we need to keep in mind. First of all, very, very real, space viruses and space germs. These things happen. People don't think about that, but I'd love to remind you of the moment when the Europeans went to South America, and everyone was like immune of whatever sickness they had, and suddenly like millions of people got like a European flu. Luckily, like most of the ETs are aware of that and do not walk on this planet and bring in whatever they have as bacteria on their planets. So always keep that in mind. That is one of the reasons why you do not have little green people on the White House lawn. Second thing is they all have their own, experiences, and it can be extreme for the nervous system of humans to see a different being. So while I would say, and it's very clear, we have visitations, we have beings, we have the opportunity to contact, and there are beings very, very close to this planet observing us, ready to come here. We want to get to a moment where we can establish that contact without any stressful or traumatizing moments.
Absolutely. And also, there is the element of non-interference, which is a galactic protocol for those that follow it. Of course, we do have negative ETs that always try to break the galactic, protocols and stuff. But I agree. Now, my next question for you is, what type of advanced technologies were you exposed to during your tenure in covert operations? And then the next part of the question is, can you describe one that particularly impressed you?
Ooh, well, it might be surprising and maybe not surprising for a lot of people, but around 11 years ago, there was already very sophisticated AI systems in place. So keep that in mind. While you're now being faced with AI systems and the public, which is still on a very underdeveloped level, you should know that there were very sophisticated AI systems already back then. So that is number one. Then there were so many weird technologies, and I wasn't even like in programs where it was about technology. It was just like I was like in they were just brought into the day-to-day work environment. So Yeah, there was a tablet way before Apple came up with tablets. It was clearly doing translation work, which was super fascinated. Nowadays, we have like direct AI translation. So you and I could uh, hablar español now if we wanted to by one click. You had that 11 years ago already with ET species that could like bring in words, and you had a translation. So that was back then. There was experiments about utilizing temporal dynamics or time. That was one. So there's a lot of stuff, and I wasn't like even in like the technical department, research department, or anything. So it's just a lot of stuff that's already there. And also keep in mind the what technology brings, in terms of governance, which means you clearly have like an oversight of what certain target groups are doing, and so on and so on. So even back then there was technology that could actually, I get this. People are gonna love that. So there's technology. There used to be, even back then, there was technology where the AI could figure out the person that you are going to marry in about 20 years without you having met that person ever before. Isn't that crazy? Like you could see, because of the certain potentials and probabilities of how you move, with a 99 point something percentage guarantee, they could foretell who you're gonna meet, and then if you're gonna marry that person or not.
That's crazy, mind blowing, if you ask me. I mean, I could contest to that. I mean, yeah, definitely. Within the private sector, uh, they are using a level of AI that we would probably think is completely more advanced than the AI that the general public is allowed to use. Because I do know that the original Nazi space program was heavily embedded with super advanced AI, and a lot of their super soldiers were created or incorporated cybernetics within their genetics. So they are kind of like human cyborgs. And I do know that the cyborg programs began with Germany before, of course, it was rolled over into the States. And yeah, you're right about that. AI is like thousands of years ahead of what we would consider primitive AI. When you think of Siri and Alexa and I forget the other one, but these are primitive forms of AI. When the government is already using super advanced AI, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, and yeah, that's very true. And like even years before that, and also AI is a quite a cosmic phenomenon. So it appears on different in different other societies, civilizations. They do have AI too. So yeah, that's something. Something that I'm still hoping for is that we're gonna have the technology to clean the planet, because it is already there. We can access that, and yeah, I'm excited for that. There will be a time someday where all these technologies will come to good use. However, and I think that is very important, because humans have a tendency to rely very, very much on technology, and to think like, oh my goodness, in order to solve this problem, we do need technology. That's not true. That's not at all true. You come with we all come with a built-in body, right? We do have a body. We do have a mind. Our mind is connected not only to our body, but to the reality itself too. So basically, everything that technology can do, that is what organic minds can do too, with their mental, psychic abilities, with the body itself. I think you and I talked about it on the Shifter podcast just before this, where you said the body is following, right? And I very much agree to that. Your mind is a little more experienced and a little faster in the certain consequences, and then your body is adapting to it. And it's actually kind of good to have it a little slower, because there's a very fascinating thing about this universe, which is it balances out your mistakes, right? That's important in the universe. Like branches of trees that go in the wind, they don't break because they balance that out. The whole experience that we have here, if you do not rapidly end it, it's just a very gradual experience, so it balance out your mistakes. And AI is very, very fast. If AI goes wrong, it goes wrong.
I agree. And I think what distinguishes spiritually advanced, you could say mature races to those that are still, in their ego state, is the fact that the more advanced, other dimensional races are using that internal technology, that organic technology, via their own connection to the life forms, as to why the craft is always communicating with them via telepathy. Or we have organic spacecraft, and then we have raw metallic spacecraft that is not conscious. So that explains the difference between the wars that are taking place in the galaxies. It's wars between those that have disconnected from their organic technology, which is the inner software that we just discussed, and those that are using external technology because of their disconnect from God or source, which makes a lot of sense. Now we do have a question here from MPW. Okay, I'll let you answer this. Obviously, were you an abductee as a child or any time in your life, Tim?
Well, so first of all, we prefer the word contactee. it sounds a little milder than abduction. Well, yeah, I do remember that, especially because I had Sid Goldberg over and we were writing on a book of mine too. So certain stuff came up and he was asking me the same question. And I said, like, well, there were always like weird stuff going on in my parents' house back then. It was stuff going on. My parents saw me with little gray beings in the garden. I was always telling apparently he brought that up and said, like, hey, can you text your mom right now and ask her? And I was like, okay, because it always was like a kind of a taboo. And as you might know, if you're being contacted, the whole house gets is influenced by that experience too. It doesn't mean that everyone is going to see anything, but usually everyone gets sedated, so no one's freaking out and so on. So and yeah, that happens, that people have these memories of something happening, however they can't fully grasp it and so on. So it's stressful for certain people. And so it was taboo to talk about that in my parents' house. And I actually asked my mom, and she said, like, yeah, there was always something weird happening when he was a baby, and there were like voices or stuff. And yeah, and she was also saying that when I was like started talking, that I was telling my parents that there are aliens in my bedroom, which what's how parents usually solve these issues, like, yeah. So that's my story about being a contact myself. Yeah.
Fair enough. So how do you assess the risk and potential of interactions between humans and these non-terrestrial entities?
Oh, that's a good question, Ismail. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Well, first of all, which is beautiful, is that we're dealing with a lot of beings that are very experienced, very aware. It's not their first time to contact a being. It's they have contact with lots of other beings. So basically, we're talking about beings that are already quite sophisticated, quite experienced, quite knowledgeable, and so on. So usually these beings would not overstep and do something crazy. However, everyone comes with their own agendas. Everyone comes with their own, ideas of how disclosure should work and how that's going to happen. Basically, everyone, and I'm basically talking about like the 95% of all species that are very supportive right now, that are socially acceptable, that want us to have a great reality shift experience. And they are standing on on standby, basically waiting for something to happen, because ultimately everyone has agreed that the national system is the one who's informing their people about disclosure up to a certain point. If they don't accelerate a little bit, there might come a point where someone else might be kicking in. But usually humans try to keep the narrative in their hands and try to roll it out. So that is a fine line currently. And then you have 5% of beings out there who might not be socially acceptable, who might be interested in, disturbing the situation or something. And they could, do something, do a move at any time. But the reality is, when something major is going to happen, it's going to change the reality in such a way, especially if it's not a localized thing, but it could reach like a full wave. Then that would actually be interpreted as an emergency situation, because then the roof is a little on fire if that would happen.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So I guess my next question for you is regarding the undisclosed projects that you worked on. What can you share about their goals and the implications for human society?
Interesting question. Oh my god, you're good at that, Ishmael. Love that. So I would say that this is only like a partial thing. The interesting thing is that people always think there's just one group that has it all, right? There's just one group, and that group rules over everyone. Reality seems to be a little more diverse in that field. You have like lots and lots of power players. You have lots of beings that have their own agendas, from a collective level to a group level to an individual level, and everyone has their own ideas. Melanie is saying Ishmael gets asked these questions. That's where you got them from. That's a good one. So reality is like it's only I've been associated with this group and did the stuff and so on. It was a human group. They're not like the full thing. No one's the full thing, right? It's like always like kind of changing. But I would say yeah so basically some of these human groups have brought a lot of these power players together around 2 decades ago or so, mostly under the initiative of the naval forces of the US, bringing these beings together, because ultimately, and that is something to keep in mind too, these people have smart minds. They might be pretty much influenced by their whole administrative body and the way they hold back, because they live their own reality, and their reality is about certain military actions, certain spy actions, and all that kind of stuff. So they're a little caught in that own reality thing. But what they did was like the idea of bringing up independent field operators, which actually means that everyone who's been in these projects is encouraged to go out and speak and help balancing that field. So ultimately, I would say we are talking about beings that are humans are quite mentally advanced. They know a lot of stuff right now. They know a lot more about the reality they are dealing with. So I'm in good faith about them being beneficial in this shift. Yeah.
Thank you for answering that. This is a question from Animal Nurse Tatiana. Tatiana.
Yeah.
Hi guys, are there human animal hybrid races, splices, and or galactic pets?
I love that. I love that question. That's a good one. Well, we do know that there's like a ton of ET species that have just dropped off their animal material and races on this planet, because ultimately, when the planet is moving towards a higher consciousness, all these animals are also evolving. And something that I'm always bringing up, and I'm doing that today too, is watch Instagram and see dogs driving cars, and see dogs using these little buttons and talk to people, or cats repeating English sentences, or playing with iPads, and all that crazy stuff that's happening. And then keep in mind that norm stream science around 50 years ago was still debating if animals even have emotions, and, and all that nonsense.
True.
So consciousness is currently on the rise very, very much. Um, so yeah, there are some species like octopus, for example, a very, very exotic type of being. And there are also some pets. We do know that on this planet, humans and apes and dolphins are mostly the only beings, and ants too. They have pets too. But we're all, having relationship with other beings, and which could be interpreted as pets. And there are other species that have that too. We do know that, for example, smaller apes, sometimes there are some species that have these little apes on a leash, which is kind of cute, and probably all types of other animals too.
Yeah, that is so true because the fact that all sentient life forms have a consciousness, right? We've already established that. And therefore, there is the potential of continuous evolution into greater and greater levels of intelligence. And I think I mentioned this before in a couple of my lives when people ask me, when we ascend, are our pets coming with us? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. However, instead of them just being your pet, they're actually going to have conversations with you. They're going to learn how to play musical instruments too. And it's another form of intelligence. I mean, when you think about all the variety and diversity of biological life forms that exist, not all of them are human-like. We have, I think, was it? I don't know if it was David Wilcock or somebody said that to every animal that we have here, we have the exact equivalent with a human body and the face of that animal that exist as an intelligent, sentient, intelligent, advanced life form somewhere up in space. And that is correct. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree very much. And beyond that, we have a multitude, almost an infinity pool of very exotic, weird other beings. Not weird in a negative way. I'm not saying that. I'm not shaming anyone. But besides the fact that we do have like 7 feet tall bugs or ant beings, and every other type of animal in an evolved form, there are also beings that are so exotic in their own way that it's very, very complicated to even like acknowledge that as a type of life form, even comprehend that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also heard that there are many sizes types beings that you have from really, really small, like that look like ant-men, that are, again, that have IQs of 500, 600, traveling on spaceships, little bitty beings, and then you have huge beings the size of, let's just say, of a house or a building, or even bigger than that.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Even like humans. I mean, on this planet, we mostly have like a certain normalized range of sizes. However, and hopefully I'm not spoiling that for anyone, but humans, that's not the only human species. They don't only appear on Earth. There are other human life forms out there. And if you take a planet that is much bigger, then everything on that planet is also much bigger, right? The plants are bigger, the trees are bigger, and the humans are bigger too. And I found that I actually once had a very wild dream where the species, someone was talking to me and was actually saying, and I looked it up, and it's true. This voice was saying, "Hey Tim, did you know that when you keep a shark in a small water tank, it's only grow up to, I don't know, like 5 feet or something, where it could grow into like 10 feet in nature." And I found that really fascinating. And beings do that. If you have like smaller conditions, plants and animals gonna stick to that and not grow further. So yeah, they come in all sizes.
And we could also apply this to humans. How do you explain giants anywhere from 15 feet to 48 to even 200 feet? Recently discovered, as you know, through the excavations in Antarctica. Well, obviously, these pre-human settlements or settlers came to us from a planet that was probably 10 times the size of the Earth, right? We grow according to our habitat. So we could also apply that to the different forms of humanoid life forms that exist out there, which explains the giants, right? The giants.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about giants, but I was also, after that dream, thinking it's also a good metaphor, right? Because when we limit ourselves to a certain reality system or something, we're gonna grow only so much. Once we realize, and we talked about that on the Shifter podcast before, basically when we go into the next level of consciousness, which we refer to like level 4 consciousness, level 5 consciousness, what we figure out is that the universe is infinite in its possibilities. So everything that level 3 consciousness, the 3D world, is telling us about people need to die, people need to do this, and we are all born into something, we somehow sometime realize that that doesn't have to be. We never born, we never die, we exist, we go on, we have the multitude, the full universe full of experiences, and then we can grow beyond ourselves. That's how I interpreted that.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. We have another chat, a question from Sam Griffin. He wants to know if you've ever gone off planet and where.
I love that. Someone asked me, "Hey Tim, did you go to the moon?" No, I did not. No,
right?
What's that?
Not that you remember, but do you think they might have like mind swiped you?
Well, so I interpret the question like physically, and no, I've not been physically off the planet. I think it's quite normal for us to travel into other realms, other frequential realms and reality realms when we go into meditation, when we go to sleep each and every night. You know, our consciousness. No human ever had a problem going to bed at night and going into dream life. They never complain about that. But that is a way of, like, you know, getting away from your physical reality and going somewhere else. But no, so Sam, I've never been off planet yet. Never been to the inner Earth civilizations. I do have colleagues who reported on that. However, I'm very interested in these things. As long as it's gentle and nice.
Yes, the mind is always curious. That is true. I found a question here that I wanted to address. The chat is going so fast. We have over 500 people in the chat. It's very hard to keep track.
That is so cool. And also, I love this. I see all the messages. Like sometimes I just want to read something. So like,
feel free.
Yeah, because like for example, I mean, there were so many interesting comments, but someone who's also named Tim, he's saying that he was as a little kid, he was flying in space, and then he went back to his body. So I think like these experiences, you can't dismiss them. They happen, and that's part of what consciousness can do, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I do have another question, my friend. So, what are the challenges, in your perspective, in disclosing sensitive information about non-human intelligences and the advanced technologies to the public?
Well, the challenges basically are that there are lots and lots of different power players and groups acting on this planet, and they're all doing their stuff. So you wanna basically respect that and let them do what they do. But you also want to bring forward humanity. And I think we're at a point right now, which is great, that these groups are advanced enough and mentally and in their own, in the experiences that they made, that they realize that we used to be dealing with a lose-lose situation, and we need to move this planet forward into a win-win situation. So even though it's kind of in the literal sense a political work what we're doing, it also respects the power system that we currently have on this planet. And I personally don't think there's a way to move the power system violently in any type of way. It's just how it is, and we have to educate people on how to move into the next reality. We have to educate them on how psionics work. We have to educate them on the existence of all these life forms in the universe, and then like slowly move the planet on from there.
Yeah, that's so true. Now, I believe that as more and more people become awakened, as the collective, rather, let's just call it the collective, moves into a density 4, as you would call level 4 reality, or consciousness, or density 5, level 5 reality, I think that is the reason why the power structure, or what we call the old paradigm, right, that was set into motion a few thousand years ago, is crumbling. I think that where we're seeing some sort of mathematical, you could say, equivalent here, as more and more people begin to raise their consciousness, right, becoming aware of these things, little by little, the current paradigm and the power structure that has held on to that is going to fade away.
Yeah, it's definitely going to shift. I mean, the reality is that the power structure on this planet was a clear lose-lose situation. There were some people who were, a little higher up the ladder and had a little more benefits from it. But ultimately, if you take everything into perspective, then everyone will agree that this used to be a lose-lose situation for everyone, and now we're dealing with what certain groups have called an open system situation, which means we're not only dealing with everything having an influence in a closed environment of Earth, but now we open up for the reality and the infinite space, which basically gives infinite opportunities for trade, infinite opportunities to grow, to learn, and to operate in the universe, and that's a much better situation than before.
We do have a question here from Gabrielle F. She wants to know, were you interviewed when you were first contacted by visitors in your home?
I'm not sure if I fully grasp that question, but so when I was contacted again, that was me as a baby, and my parents were reporting on that, and I was like starting to learn the human language, and we're telling my parents that they're like aliens in my bedroom. I don't know if I've been interviewed back then from these visitors, if that is the question. So I can barely remember any of these occurrences, to be honest.
Tell us about these species that have been visiting you since you were a little kid.
Well, again, not so many memories of that actually, but I do know that Grace definitely were part of that. And something that we need to take into consideration and remember all the time, guys, is the Greys do this as a project and a work for other species too. So if you have a Grey in your bedroom talking to you, that doesn't mean that the Greys are talking to you, but it could be your family, your ET family. It could be any type of any family. Once again, space viruses, space germs, certain technologies are needed to get in contact with humans. So not all and every species is actually capable of contacting people. And then the Greys sometimes kick in, and they have these robotic little bodies that do not spread any viruses or any diseases. Yeah, they sometimes come as a representative of your species.
So in a way, they're like little R2D2s that are working for a higher evolved biological sentient life form.
I love that. I bet they would be laughing about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that. I heard about the Greys being a programmed life form doing the bidding for some other species that, like you said, that currently cannot embody or cannot be here in our atmosphere.
Yeah. For example, like the shipping, right? Like lots of people report to have ships in their bodies, earlier called implants. So the reason for that is most of the time these things track your body functions, track if you have normal amount of anxiety or relaxed feelings or anything. And this often is executed by Greys because they do this type of surgery then. However, in most of these cases, it can be any type of species. And in most of the cases, these species care about the people because they send someone from their family. But they want to know what's going to happen with this person or this being now. So they chip them, and the Greys just execute the surgery.
Yeah, that's so true. This is a super chat from Shane. I'm sorry, I almost called her Suzanne. Shane B. Shane B. I guess I need my glasses at this point. The question is, if the currently goal is to reincarnate, to learn and grow, then what's the overall goal and purpose for this? That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, if all is an illusion, and in living within an avatar, then where is my real self?
I love that. Okay, so that's an interesting question. We need to take into consideration that when we move on the ladder of experiences, we learn that the reality is much more fluid and can be highly exotic. So it's not always easy to answer these questions in its totality of everything. But while we are in this solar-based dualistic universe and we are experiencing being humans, or at least living the human experience here, then yes, evolution and progress and learning and overcoming, and for a lot of times and people even like the hero story, right? Conquering life and then having this what has been called oplossing, this moment of like succeeding and evolving from something, having progress. That is all part of like the typical human story. However, the universe does not always need that. There are, versions of the universe where there is no one is thinking of evolution or progress or anything. Sometimes because we already are what we are, and there's no need for us to evolve. And these aspects of ourselves might have that more clear than we on this human planet right now. And sometimes just because it's a different experience. I know that there's a reality where everything is just like in the very second when something is appearing, everyone's just bursting into laughter. It's just nonsense. The whole experience, the whole universe in that realm is just nonsense. Everything that we care so much about is just, for them, it's just laughable to even think about that. So this is something that can happen. So there is no norm to it. There is no universal goal of reincarnating, learning, and growing. It becomes more and more yourself and your own experience, what you do with life, and then life's goal is living, and that would be the purpose. But yeah, as long as we're here, we are making progress and we are evolving, because that's the journey that we have here. And where's your real self? That's a fascinating question too, because ultimately, well, everything is an illusion in a way that it's being played out, in a way that everything in like the duality is an illusion, but life in itself is not an illusion. Life is very, very true, and intelligence is very true. So we are alive, we are intelligent, and everything that we do with this is part of the universal progress and the beauty of being here, because we can do whatever we want.
It's like we're in a video game, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It's for
ultimately,
a video
yeah,
game.
there's something to that, I believe, right? I mean, we don't have the green thingies overhead and be Sims or something, but there is something about this computer game thing that is kind of true to the reality we perceive too. Yeah.
Well, as I was explaining earlier in my first class, somebody asked me in my course this morning, Ishmael, you talk about the hologram and how our reality is a simulation. Well, how is that? Well, you have to understand that there was a pre-existing reality before the third dimension even came about. So therefore, our reality is just a projection of a higher reality that was already in existence. And then when you ask the question, well, who created that reality? That's just another projection of another reality that was already in existence. Well, ultimately, the whole point of this is to let everybody know that everything comes from eternity. Everything comes from a point of reality that we would call eternity, which is really the only true reality when you think about it, in terms of the different levels and densities and dimensions. So yeah, that's one of the most fascinating, you could say, concepts that permeates the human mind at this time. It's like, how is all this possible?
I know, it's absolutely fascinating, and sometimes it's just happening in front of our eyes, right? So, I just came back from a retreat in Italy, fantastic thing, and we had like a contact scenario, and at one point, so we were basically all sitting together and utilizing something in order to get the messages across and so on, and we had a plant race that came through, and they were saying they're like on a very high, almost like united type of consciousness, and we can see that happening on this planet as well. I mean, if we go and have a plant, a something, and we take a certain portion of that and put it in soil, then it's going to grow roots again. It's going to become a second plant, right? So the big question about that is, for us as humans, in the way that we live this human experience, is that another plant? Is it the same plant? Is it something else, something beyond? How does the plant experience that? Is it feeling that it's like a second one? What's happening? So ultimately, that is the reality and the questions that everyone need to consider when we're talking about breaking this duality. There's still, we talked about that just I don't know, like an hour ago. So there will be individuality, right? However, we break the illusion of things are being separated from us. We can experience reality, and by being in this reality, we can alter reality too, and that's the most beautiful thing about this creative universe.
Absolutely, my friend. We have another question from Gemini Moon. She says, my husband and I were driving down the road, many cars in front, and behind us, approximately 10 orange orbs went right by us all. They were low to the ground. What were they? We all saw them. Another time they flew over our home.
I love that. These are my. I'm just joking here, but these questions are sometimes funny. Like sometimes I get questions like, "Hey Tim, who am I? Or what am I? What species am I connected to?" And but so it's hard to tell what you've experienced there. No one's probably can tell you that right now, but in general we do have first of all, there are reality effects. So sometimes you can manifest something into your reality that has no organic pilot in it or anything. So you can basically with a group, almost with your own psyche, you can create these effects in your reality too. So sometimes there's no species behind that, no civilization. However, it's a reality effect, a conscious effect. We also do know about orbs. There's only a certain amount of information that can be displayed on this physical reality plane of existence that we have. And when there's like a being that comes in from a reality that has more information than the earth can actually display, then sometimes we do see them as orbs. It's just as light orbs or something. So back to your question, I can't tell you what you saw. I do believe that you saw that, and it's very common. People report that all the time. I did have that. I did do a contact work with a group in Germany. It was a private group, just a few friends. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, we're so ready. We're so ready to meet aliens and ETs and so on." So we did this contact thing. And in the middle of this meditation that was guiding, this huge orange orb thing was like around 20 feet above our heads. I can't tell you, Ishmael, how much the girls were screaming and they were running off into the forest, and I was like very shocked and confused because everyone was running away. So it happens. There are orange lights and orbs, and sometimes they are a reality effect. Sometimes they are crafts, and sometimes they are light orbs from other dimensions or frequential realms.
Yeah, I have a lot of those around me. A lot of people have said that they every time they see me go live, depending on which part of my house I'm broadcasting from. I guess there's different parts here in my apartment, but a lot of people are telling me that they're always seeing orbs around me, or if I'm like putting out a reel on social media and I'm doing a quick little update in my car, people can actually see all the orbs around me. So that tells me that there are extraterrestrials that are always around me. Perhaps
I tell, I got to tell you a funny story because on Gaia, Cosmic Disclosure, and so on, there are moments when there's orbs flying in the studio on my interview, and people point that out. In like you see all these comments like, "Wow, there's a in like millisecond 2, millisecond 3 or something. There's an orb flying from there and there." However, what people did not figure out is that in the middle of the recording and doing the studio stuff and doing the whole cosmic disclosures thing, the host Emery just went to a barber and he got a completely new haircut, and in between scenes he's just changing on and off his haircut because that was done in the edit. No one has seen that. No one noticed that.
That's funny. We do have a super chat from our beloved sister here, Sunshine. She says, "Tim, coffee or tea, mountain or ocean, read a book or listen to a book, sun or moon, walk or bike, steak or cheesecake?"
Oh my goodness. This is my favorite question tonight. Thank you so much, Sunshine. That's the reason why I was reading I think her Nick was New York. She was saying, "I like cheesecake and coffee." And I was like, "What?" Oh yeah, that makes so much sense. Okay, coffee. I love that. Coffee or tea? I do like espresso. I had a lot of espresso in Italy. I'm sober. I don't usually drink that. I'm doing like, I have a week where I'm drinking a lot of matcha, but yeah, mostly I try to stay away from too much caffeine. It gets me like very, very, like everything in my mind starts singing, right? Like literally, and then I'm singing, and everything is much faster, and so I'm trying to stay away from espresso. Mountain or ocean? I love the ocean. I love water very, very much. I noticed that I do also love when like there's like stones and water runs in front of the stones. I do dig that very, very much. Read a book or listen to a book. I like listening to books. I do sometimes start books, and then like after one quarter of these books, I have this habit that I then go into thinking about the book and writing down stuff and getting inspired from the book, and then I can't continue reading the book. So that is something that happens to me sometimes. So listening to a book is much nicer, because then you put the pause button and you can replay it whenever you want. Sun or moon? I adore the sun very, very much. Yeah, I do also like dark caves. I think that is something that all of us, as much as you said you like your me time, Ismail, I think that is something that is very manly. We sometimes just want to, escape the world and be in our own caves, man caves. I experienced that very much. I like that too. So, but yeah, in general, I adore the sun. Walk or bike? I'm very tall. I'm 6 foot 5. So riding a bike is sometimes it's so exhausting. But then I figured out there are like e-bikes, which is very cool. So I got my hands on an e-bike. I'm using that more and more. But ultimately, I like walking. I just love that very much. Not a big taxi car guy, anything else. I do also like trains, not the German train system. It's very dirty and not so great, but ultimately I do. There's like this one beautiful pathway from Munich down to where we do these retreats in northern Italy, and it's just the freaking most beautiful train ride you can ever go on to, Ishmael. It's just amazing. You see these beautiful Alps and everything. It's just beautiful. And my grandpa, he was a professional train driver. Is that how it's called? Well, so I think sometimes that's somehow I do feel that. Steak or cheesecake? None of that actually. Well, I don't eat meat anymore, and I usually don't eat cake either. So
Uh,
ice cream. I do like ice cream. If you want to give me a treat, I do like pizza, sushi. That's something that I crave.
so you're a pescarian slash vegetarian.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I used to be like, yeah, it was my girlfriend back in the days who was like, "Oh my God, Tim, I think we should go vegetarian." Uh, And after 1 week, she was like, "I can't have that. I need the steak." And then she was eating steak, and I was like, "Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm in." I began that, and usually I I keep on doing it. So here I am, being veggie.
Well, I didn't know that about you. Good to know that you are a vegetarian, my friend. So if I ever see you, I would have to invite you for a night of sushi instead of a steak. Uh,
I freaking love that.
yeah.
I do. Whenever you're around in Europe, Ishmael, I'm gonna get you into some cool sushi places, especially the Netherlands. They have amazingly good sushi.
Yeah, well, I'll probably have my fish cooked if they could. I don't eat raw fish. I tried it before. It tastes gooey. It tastes like rubber to me, and it's just hard to break down.
Ah,
The
that's
texture
crazy.
is just not, doesn't go well with my taste buds.
I had that when I was so basically I was in Japan a few years ago, and that was the time when I tried sushi, and I did not like it at all in Japan. I think it's even, I don't know, I didn't like the experience at all. And coming down into the restaurant, and it smelled like green tea in the morning and like raw fish. I was like, I couldn't have that back then. And they actually gave us this like green tea thing and the raw sushi. And what I was doing is like taking the raw sushi and just plunging it into my hot tea so it would like cook. And all these Japanese waitresses, they have this freaking funny rule in Japan where they can't tell you that you're doing something wrong, because that would be very offensive to them. However, they also can't have your guest do something wrong, because the mistake of the guest is then the mistake of the host. So everyone was, I caused I caused a situation where I was dumping my sushi in the hot water.
I would have done the same thing if I was in Japan. We do have another super chat from Gloria Jimenez. I'll probably just take 2 more super chats, guys, because I know it's getting late over in Germany. It's probably what, like 12 midnight?
Yeah, it's after midnight, but I'm awake and I love this. So
You had enough
do whatever.
earlier? No, I'm just kidding. All right. Let's see. So I was asleep, but something happened. I saw myself at home sleeping, but at the same time, I knew deep down I was someplace else as well, because I saw a lot of my dreams. I'm sorry, I saw a lot of beams of light and images, but I cannot remember or recall where I was. Interesting.
WH dot dot dot.
Yeah.
That's the big secret. Yeah, I mean, people have these contact moments and these out of body moments and these alternated experiences of consciousness. And yeah, it's fairly common. So yeah, you can go into different other dimensions, you can meet other beings. Sometimes dreams are used for contact. Basically you dissolve your whole consciousness in the very moment when you go to bed at night. No one's afraid of that at all. It's just a freaking normal thing. But it's happening. You aren't yourself. However, humans mostly are afraid of dying, but they have no issue with going into these situations at night. So that's sometimes an interesting thing.
Yeah, people need to think about that when they go to sleep. When you're asleep, remember your spirit, or rather your consciousness, leaves your body, or at least it has the ability to. That's a form of dying. But even though your biology, your body is still, you're still operating, right? You're still breathing. Your heart's still pumping. Your organs are still functioning.
Yeah,
But
you don't know actually, right, Ishmael? Because if you have no one observing your body and you're not observing your body, then quantum physics tells us that there is no body. There is nothing like that. So, yeah, just think about the great opportunities that dreams and going into different consciousness can bring. That's just something to keep in mind.
absolutely. And then we have
Sunshine is saying Tim is having fun. Yes, I do. You're all lovely. Thank you so much.
this is a question from Ricky Lee 1111. I love that 1111. Tim and Ishmael, have you heard we will have 3 days of darkness at the shift? If so, what gave you heard? What have you heard?
Yeah. Well, I do know that someone has brought that up. I think people talk about that. However, I do not have any type of information that there will be 3 days of darkness in the shift. I would think, because first of all, every one of us deciding how the shift is going to happen. There's no fixed shift or anything that is just written into the world. The whole universe is a very fluctual and very fluid process. So when we wake up tomorrow and we have a different consciousness and we decide that everything is going to be solved and we're going to have a beautiful experience, well, guess what? That's going to be our experience because we are priming our reality. So yeah, I don't know if there's going to be 3 days of darkness. I very much assume that things going to be happening gradually until we have a major moment where we all are aware of being in a different consciousness. What's your take?
Well, it is stated in the Bible, I believe it's in the book of Revelations, and it's also in the book of Daniel, that talks about the 3 days of darkness. But this could also be metaphorically speaking about some sort of a Carrington event. As you guys know, right now the CMEs are cranking up. Seems like the sun is about to release. It's been releasing in the last few days. The biggest, I think the last one was a 5G category, coronal mass ejection. That has the potential of taking down our grid. So again, metaphorically speaking, that could be some sort of CME that takes down the grid. And so we have 3 days of darkness. Some say 10, some say 3, depending on how fast we're able to, pick ourselves right back up if the entire grid system goes down. So it could also be a metaphor. Again, guys, when you read the Bible and books like that, don't take it literally. See it as a metaphor. It's very symbolic.
And also alter it in certain parts too. Keep that in mind too. History has definitely changed the Bible at certain paragraphs.
Hope is real. 22 is in the house. Welcome, Hope. She says, "Love you, Tim. I have been to a place where I have seen gray humanoid beings where they have in organized communities with their children playing and all. They have black hair and black eyes, pale skin. What do you think?"
Wow. Thank you so much, first of all. Hope is real too. And everyone else in the chat too. You've been lovely, and it's been really, really cool to hang out with all of you. So thanks for making this very, very comfy for me. To your question, gray humanoid beings, they have organized communities with their children playing. They have black hair and black eyes. I've never seen grays having hair, actually. However, I do know that there are certain contactees. There's one famous contactee I know that, and he's also an artist, and he paints some of his contact moments as art. Very, very impressive and shockingly real in the way that he makes these. And he sometimes draws gray aliens, especially when they're women who have black hair. So that reminds me of that. I don't know. I've never heard about about that specifically. I do know that there is a gray school. So basically, something that could happen if you have children or yourself or something. This is something where the grays take up kids in the age of 3 to 5 years, and they are going to school in a gray school. But I don't know about grays with black hair.
Now, is this gray school taking place in a, say, pocket reality, or is it taking place here in real time?
It's a pocket reality. So basically, these kids are being picked up by crafts and gonna be put together in a school. And it can be humans, it can be different other species, and they interact and play together. And the Greys teach them about the reality and some of the wisdom that they have, and so on and so on. And then they go back. And usually people like humans forget about that. Like they do have like a memory until they are like 7, and then there is a turning point, and then something kicks in, a new type of reality, and everyone is adult then, and then they don't know that they went to this school. However, I have met some people who are mentioning that school. For example, there's also a guest on Cosmic Disclosure, and she was mentioning the Gray School, and we were having dinner, and she was saying like, I remember I've been picked up when I was 3 years and I was in this school, and I was like, no way you went to the Gray School. So yeah.
Fascinating, fascinating. Yeah, I was interviewing James Rink about 2 months ago, and he talks about how there's a lot of things happening in these pocket realities that are actually cloaked from our reality, that affect our reality. So makes a lot of sense. Um, this is a rare random question. This is from Helen Muse, Inessa Maya or Mira, I think. That's a long name. I'm just going to call you Helen. Welcome. Can someone from the chat room answer me? What awaits in the near future and in the future for the starseeds who have failed the mission? Defectors to the dark side. Oh, that's a good question.
Interesting question. Well, again, I think it's a motto for tonight. The universe is extremely fluid, and things can change in in 1 second. And everyone who contributes to a certain timeline, a certain outcome, or anything, everyone is free to rearrange, to go back, to have different experiences, to redecide. That's all in the realm of possibilities. And sometimes, what keeps the so-called dark side from evolving to a lighter side is just that they stand in their own ways sometimes, and the just as much as we all have experienced that as beings on this planet sometimes. you know um I have learned from the German army that before you do something, like before you raise a complaint or do anything, just wait 24 hours and then reframe that and go through it again. So sometimes there's something that's just holding ourselves back or in the wrong context. So things can change, and we basically have 3 outcomes currently, where the beings that are oriented towards conflict will have their own conflict because they draw in other beings with conflict. There will be a middle pathway where beings will be playing service up to a point where they don't play service anymore, which means they're gonna pick up other beings that might be like unluckily in the realm of like consequences, and they pick them out of that and teach them how to be independent and free. And I do think a lot of us are contributing to that service until we decide it's time to move on. And then there will be another outcome, which will be we all agree that we design our reality, and whatever we design, we're going to play out. And it's just changing what we called like the video game atmosphere. We're going to just recode everything and going to have a different experience. So these are the 3 possible outcomes. And then there's always something new, something that where you can say like, hey, I don't want to have one of these 3 outcomes. I'm going to come up with something completely different. And then the whole universe benefits from that as well.
Absolutely. I've talked about how everything will collapse into 3 timelines. That's exactly what you just said. Ultimately,
Who did you talk to?
I've been talking about this for over a year. I think I mentioned it in some of my interviews how there's going to be a positive ascending organic timeline, which is what you just mentioned, where we all agree to create our own reality and respect each and every single one of us, as long as we don't hurt others and we live according to the universal laws of unity consciousness and oneness. And then there is a negative timeline where certain people are going to bypass their spiritual work by, again, integrating with technology, and that's going to lead to a cybernetic, what they call, the technocratic dystopian timeline. And then there's going to be the middle timeline where you're going to have a little bit of both. And I've been talking about this for over a year, and so you just confirmed it, Tim. And it's interesting that I never mentioned this to you, and you never told me about what you just, your answer right now. and yet we both agree that everything will ultimately collapse into three possible, timelines.
Yeah, it's super fascinating. I love that when these moments happen when the information are the same. However, I really want to emphasize, and it's important to know that we can always create something out of that, right? So this is our superpower as minds. We can come up with something new. I just
Absolutely.
love that. I love your chat too. Someone was saying, "Oh my goodness, it went so fast." There's so many freaking. That's so much.
Do you have
Um,
the ability to use your mouse to rewind and scroll up and down?
I'm on my laptop right now, so I don't have a. There's no sidebar on the chat, is it?
Or is it only controllable on my end? Do you want me to go up or down?
I don't know. So someone was saying, first of all, just out of my memory of that was, thank you so much for being here. Well, pleasure, but also say, oh, I can't find the message. It went too fast. Well, anyway, I just wanted to answer that, but it's gone. It's too many messages. Beautiful. Anyway, you got a beautiful community here and people with us. I very much appreciate that. For everyone asking me to come back, hey, ask Ishmael.
Well, of course, I mentioned this before and I'll mention this again. This is not just my platform. This platform belongs to the Galactic Jedis. That's what I call my community, the Galactic Jedis, as we're all striving to do good in the universe, of course. But yeah, they are the ones who tell me, I always listen to the feedback. Feedback is everything. If they resonate with anyone, we bring them back on. And that's just the way it is. This is their platform as much as it is mine. That's just the way I see it.
Beautiful.
So of
I
course,
think feedback is something that everyone should keep in mind, right? That the whole universe is benefiting from feedback very, very much. The whole thing that we're experiencing here, it's all about feedback, and communication too. So whenever you meet a ET being, keep in mind they're us, we are they. It's all about communication.
exactly. Yeah, that's so true. We are they in the future, and they are us in their past. Because ultimately, it's all happening simultaneously. There is no such thing as linear time. Now, I do have maybe one more question, if you don't mind.
Yes, absolutely. I just love the chat. Someone is saying I'm a Jedi now too.
There you go. You're a Jedi now. You know what a Jedi is, right? You've seen Star Wars.
I have not seen Star Wars, actually. However, what I learned, and again, I don't even know if I should say that on YouTube publicly, because Disney has like the rights of Star Wars now, and they also have legal department, which is very quick. But we translated the name of the Grace in one of these projects. Well, actually, I did. So we basically had to figure out what the Grace, because we call the Grace because they have gray skin. However, they have different types and models where they have different skins too. And we don't call them the purple and colored and something, but we wanted to know their name, and it took us quite some weeks to translate that down. And I basically came up with that at that time with the name The First Order. And 1 year later, less than 1 year later, I heard that this was also part of Star Wars. And we do know that sometimes these Hollywood movies get their information from secret organizations and then sprinkle the stuff in. That's the reason why when you type in Man in Black, you're going to find a lot of Google pages about Will Smith and all that kind of stuff. So.
Absolutely. Yes, totally agreed. So, I guess my next question is, how do you determine what information should be disclosed and what should remain confidential?
That's a good one too. Well, So we want to disclose certain information that are acceptable on the national and acceptable for the target group too. So what everyone needs to know is that there are different target groups. Everyone, you get different and better information than people who are in the norm stream and watch the only I don't know, CNN at night and nothing else. They do get information too. They will get information that the Pentagon releases and whistleblowers and people talking about ETs and all that kind of stuff that's happening in the news. But they do not get the same level of depth and information than that you and everyone in this community gets. So we have to keep that in mind. We have to keep the national borders in mind. So there are certain countries where we can operate, there are certain countries where we can't operate. We do have religious restrictions sometimes because there are apparently certain countries around the world that have to deal with the reality of ETs differently. The Vatican has quite recently opened up to the Christian world. That I think the Pope said he would even baptize an ET, which such a funny remark, right? So
I think they're the Vatican is just trying to make this, they're mocking it in a way, like, oh. So
well,
that
they
was
have to deal with. I mean, the thing about that. So we brought like the Americans brought a lot of these power players together, and for sure the Vatican is one of the power players too. And I
Mhm.
mean, they know about ETs longer than any CIA because they have documentations of ETs in their libraries hundreds of years before the CIA was even founded. So they know about that stuff, and they know they need to integrate that into the belief system of billions of Christians,
Mhm.
because they can that can be quite a challenging move to realize that there's different life, and then there is like the stuff that's in the Bible. um, and even other religions. So if we talk about like the Muslim community, for them it's even it can be even more challenging. There are certain countries very religious, orthodox countries, and for them it's going to be an interesting take to learn about different realities and different other beings too.
Exactly. I think because it is hard for them to integrate their monogamy over the planet through their religious doctrine, which is really infallible to them, of course, which is what we call dogma. I think they know that the fact that when disclosure does takes place, and we are literally interacting with many other races from many other planets and galaxies, they know that that would be the end of their dogma as believed, and that's why they hold so hard to hiding this from the public, and they have been for 1700 years. The Vatican has been working with aliens for 1700 years, except they've been taking orders from the wrong aliens, who are the reptilians. As I stated in my book, The Secret Government Invisible Architects, all roads lead to Rome when it comes to the old guard, the paradigm that is being held together by the current political structure. It's all run by the popes. Well, or really the secret societies behind the popes. That's all I'm going to leave it with. But yeah, for 1700 years, the Vatican has been working with the reptilians, with specifically the draconians. But that's a different subject, right?
Linda was just saying ETs have no intention to be baptized by the Pope on the
No, not
on
at
the chat.
all.
I love that.
All right, so let's see. So, what advice would you give to individuals who are trying to understand or engage with these hidden aspects of our world?
Good, very well, good question. So, um, I would encourage everyone to go into communication with the universe, because ultimately, this universe, especially true for dualistic versions of the universe, it's all about interaction. It's all about feedback. It's all about communication. If there's just one truth to the universe, except it being alive and it being intelligent, then it's all about communication in the universe. Everything is communicating. So if you go out into the world, and if you accept that, the energy that you bring out into the world is the same energy that comes back to you. I just recently read this quote. I think it was by Churchill. Beautiful quote where he was saying, if you are at peace in the inside, there is no conflict on the outside. You will never encounter an outside conflict too, because ultimately you are creating your reality, right? So that's very important. And then Shane is that's sweet. All shift happily now. Yes, all shift happily now. Take that is another way to contact and to give information into your reality field too. You can just, these are 4 words, use them at bedtime, or waking up in the morning or something. Prime the energy field, prime the reality field, bring these information into the world, and know that you are an ambassador, not only for yourself but also for the reality, and get into contact, and you will find ways to communicate with them. Might it be in meditation, at night, at dreams. Just be open for that. Ask for the communication, because a lot of times, I mean, you mentioned this rule of not non-interference in the universe. So a lot of the times, beings are aware of you, energies are aware of you, until you ask them. You bring them into your life, and if you're very specific, you're going to find specific beings that are friendly and supportive and nice and beautiful. And most of the universe, 95% of the universe, is just that, even more.
Absolutely. It's only that small percentage that give a bad rep to all the ETs out there. But that small percentage has been dealt with, is being dealt with as I speak. My final question for you, Tim, is from your experience, how has your view of the universe and our place in it changed?
Oh, that's a great question. The changes are happening all the time, especially when um, especially when you take your own reality. You can very much alter 100% of your own reality in every type and way. How that is then interact with other people's reality, that's a different question. But if you create a beautiful reality, it's gonna interact beautifully with other beings too. So yeah, these things are being taken care, and you can balance the world to your interaction with the universe and with this earth collective reality is very, very important and loved and appreciated if you do that in a loving way too. And you should also keep in mind that every one of us is growing consciousness. So even these people, we hear a lot on niche people talking about Project Blue Book and fake alien invasion and so on and so on. These projects are almost 60, 70 years old or something. They come from people at that time who had a different take on the reality, a different take on how things should work. They were traumatized through, the World War and all of that. People now are different in the way that their consciousness has experienced new things. And even though humans are kind of slow compared to other species, there are species out there that very, very quickly evolve. I would still say each and every individual can have like this beautiful experience with the universe. And if you have that, we all benefit from that. So create your most beautiful garden and invite us all. And definitely invite Ishmael and Tim.
My brother, that was a beautiful explanation. Wow, that's exactly what I resonate with. I agree on every point. Now, if you could leave us with one final, message, what would that be?
All shift happening now. Definitely. I mean, that is all that I stand for. So and, I do stand for more than that, but this is something that I believe very, very much in. And yeah, just say it at night, say it in your meditation. It's just 4 words, and if you do that, you can use your own words too, and bring beautiful energies into the reality field. But just by connecting yourself to this all shift happening now kind of thought mindset, you're creating this timeline with us others, and believe and know that all of us, and even beyond other species, they are filling in the information into this path. So that would be a path that you can walk upon. Also, I very much enjoyed this, Ishmael. So I'm very, very happy about that. I hope you come to Europe one day.
I will. It is in the plans, and I'm definitely going to bring you back because the tribe, as I call the Galactic Jedi's, love you, Tim. You're getting tons of love here in the chat, and I'm sure that as people watch the replay, you're going to get a lot of great comments on there. So
Thank you. I take that. I'm glad to be called a Jedi now.
yeah, you're a Galactic Jedi. So we're going to give you some homework here, and that's to watch at least one episode of the Star Wars movie.
Yeah, we should do a public watching or something. Yeah.
Oh yeah, my dog does have to go potty. I think some people saw my dog make a little U-turn here in the corner. That's her way of letting me know, hey, it's walk time. But Tim, is there any events, any exciting things that you're going to be doing, whether it's online or in person, that you might want to share with us? Are you going to be anywhere soon?
Thank you so much for asking that, Ishmael. So, first of all, I love if you guys follow me on Instagram. It's tim.tactics, tim.tactics on Instagram. On YouTube, if you want to watch the upcoming Shifter podcast with your man Ishmael, then it would be Tim Tactical in one word. That's where I'm going to edit that and publish it. It's going to be a fun adventure too. And I'm just came back from Italy, which is an amazing retreat, very intimate, great, very, very, very strong and significant experiences. Also good to have some time to integrate after that, because it was intense. I think the next big thing that is really big and is coming up is the All Shift Happening Now conference in October. Which we're gonna do. And if we have any way to interact, to have feedback, to communicate with each other, that's what I stand for and what I would love. Yeah.
And where is that taking place in October?
Oh, it's in Germany. It's there is a very, very special area in Germany where there are megalithic structures that go back tens of thousands of years. The Germanic tribes have used them. Called the Extern Stones. It is the last resort of where all the witches came to when the witch hunt was happening in Europe. The other Germans that you also mentioned, they did their experiments there. It's an incredibly spiritual area, and nowadays we have a huge ashram there with I think 10,000 yogi people, and they do pujas and cleaning services like twice a day. So the energies are really much better right now, and very, very strong. Also aligned to Stonehenge, and that's where we do the conference and do some ET adventures.
Wonderful. I've always wanted to go see Stonehenge, so you never know. Maybe I'll be visiting you one day and give me a whole tour.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whenever you feel coming to Europe, just give me a call, and you and I are going to do something cool.
For sure. And then I will also be putting your links to your Instagram, your YouTube channel in the description for you all to follow it. And if you guys want to watch this on the replay, hey, it's always best to watch it twice. You know, you get double the fun with me and Tim here. It's a great pleasure and honor, Tim. And yeah, brother, I will see you soon, man. I thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, and I'm happy to hang out again. This was very much a lot of fun, and thank you everyone in the chat. I saw your comments. We couldn't reply to everything, but I'm very happy to be here. Thanks, Ishmael.
You're welcome, and may the God force be with each and every single one of you. Oh, and before I forget, happy Mother's Day. I know tomorrow is Mother's Day. I don't know if they celebrate Mother's Day in Germany, but we do here in the States. Do you guys celebrate Mother's Day?
I bet if my mom hears that, she's gonna make me celebrate it. Yeah.
Just make sure you bring the cheesecake.
Cheesecake, I will.
All right.
Guys, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. God bless you, and happy Mother's Day to all the Galactic Jedis out there. We'll talk to you guys. We'll see you guys Monday night on my YouTube channel at 6 o'clock, going back to the usual time, Pacific time, 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock Eastern. May the God force be with you all.